Okay. The Tea on the Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This summer, I was on a mission, a journey, if you will, to reread classics that I have been assigned throughout my academic career, as well as classics that I've never read and feel that as an English teacher I probably should read, but just never had them assigned to me in school and then never thought to read them otherwise. The top book on my list was The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, which I was assigned to read in high school and have read multiple times since that first read. And I have never liked this book, but I thought, this summer I'm going to give it a fresh chance. I'm going to go in with no preconceived notions. I want this book to speak to me. I want to know what is good about it. I want to know why people love The Scarlet Letter. I did not find that. I did not find out. I do not know. I still don't know the answer to the question of what is good about The Scarlet Letter. Here are my thoughts about it with a summary and also the positives and negatives. The Scarlet Letter starts out with our main character, Hester, and she has just given birth. She has a newborn baby girl, and she is leaving the prison in the small town in the New World in America, where she has been incarcerated for however long it took the people to realize she was pregnant and then give birth. The people of the town are surrounding her, they are judging her, they are condemning her for her actions because our girl Hester has committed adultery. And the reason why we know that, and the townspeople know that, is because she originally came across the ocean and she was supposed to have her husband come with her later. He was going to meet up with her once she'd already settled in the New World, and he did not show. He was absent for a significant amount of time, maybe a few years. She did not know where he was. And so this woman alone in the New World ends up committing adultery with an unknown man and becoming pregnant, at which point she is then punished and made to wear a scarlet letter A on her clothing at all times so that people will know that she's an adulteress. Her husband has just arrived in town. We don't really know where he was. He claims to have been with the Native Americans learning natural remedies and is a doctor. Don't know if that's true or not. He's not the most trustworthy man, but he has finally made an appearance as Hester is exiting the jail. He's in the crowd. He is very upset because obviously he's seeing his wife, who he sent to the New World without him, and she has a baby, and that baby is for sure not his. Then he visits her. He's asking her, who's the father of your baby? I'm not mad at you. No worries. You're just a woman, so it's really not your fault. Your punishment is enough from the shame that you will forever experience from this letter A. So just tell me who the dude is because I need to go after him. And Hester will not tell her husband who the father of the child is. And this is a whole conflict within the book that she won't say it, and she's experiencing the punishment for her sins, but he is going under the radar and he's never being punished at all. So her husband takes the name Roger Chillingworth, which is apparently not his real name, just a name that he's chosen for himself so that no one will know that he is Hester's husband. And he makes it his absolute mission in life to find out who the father is. Time passes. We fast forward several years to when Pearl, Hester's daughter, is a little bit older and she's just an absolute demon child. She is always running around causing trouble and she cannot be tamed. She's full of life and excitement and sounds pretty much just like a normal child to me, but the town is not happy with how Hester is raising her. They feel like Hester's a bad influence on her. So they're trying to take Pearl away from her, at which point we meet our fourth main character in the novel, which is Reverend Dinsdale. It is pretty obvious that he is the one who is the father of Hester's baby, but the townspeople don't know that, and they think he is just top shelf reverend. They love him. They think he is a great man and very God-fearing, and he is keeping his secret. He will not be telling anyone that he is the father of Pearl and that he committed adultery with Hester. And the result of this is that he is increasingly becoming sicker and sicker. He is sort of disintegrating from the inside out from this shame and the fact that he is not receiving a punishment for his sin. So he's being punished kind of in the natural order of things. His consequence is that he's getting closer to death as his sin bears down on him and he becomes increasingly more ill. Chillingworth is now living with Dimmesdale. He kind of crept his little way in there. He is claiming that he is a doctor and is trying to treat him, but what he is actually doing is psychologically torturing him so that he gets closer and closer to death through that influence. Pretty much nothing else happens in the book. That's the plot setup, but it's also like the plot. That is basically it. The only other things that really happen of note are in the middle of the book when Dimmesdale and Hester meet up in the woods, and it's this moment where Dimmesdale's like, I can't live this way anymore, we should run away together, then we can be together and we can raise Pearl. And Hester's like, yep, I love that idea, that's a great idea, I've been keeping your secret all this time and being punished for it, and you have let me take the fall for the tango that we did together. She says she's gonna go with him, but it doesn't end up working out, and spoiler alert, but Dimmesdale does end up dying on the scaffold where Hester had been standing in shame at the beginning of the book. His illness kills him, and he has his shirt ripped open, and he has a letter A in a rash on his chest so that everyone knows that he is the adulterer. And then the book ends with Pearl growing up. Hester stays in the town for the rest of her life and then dies and is buried, and that is the end. That is the whole thing. Feels like it took me a long time to tell that story, but actually not that much happens. Like actual plot points, there's like 3. Moving into my thoughts and my evaluation on the book, my first criticism has to do with the fact that there really essentially is no plot. There are so few things that happen. It is mostly characterization and long chapters where Hawthorne is just explaining the symbolism in the novel to us. It feels like a textbook where instead of the symbols being there and then you as the reader get to figure out what they are and feel very Englishy when you figure them out, instead he just tells you. He's like, Pearl represents this, and the scaffold represents this, and there's a meteor that flies over the town that represents this, and he's just essentially giving that to the reader, which I don't love. So not only is there really no plot, but also everything is over-explained, just all this exposition dumping, which I tend to hate in modern novels because it makes me feel like you think that I'm an idiot, and I do know how to read, and I also know how to understand nuance and read between the lines. So the reader just being told what those symbols mean takes away the whole joy of reading for me. The other problem that I have is the way that the book portrays the romance, where we've got this basically deadbeat dad. If any other person did the devil's tango with someone else and then that woman got pregnant and that man just pretended that he wasn't even the father and went on living his life, we would not respond well to that. But for some reason in the Scarlet Letter, I feel like it's treated like, oh, well, he had to do that because he was the pastor and he was the leader of this town. But again, if someone in the church or a pastor did this and just pretended it didn't happen, we wouldn't say, oh, of course he did that for a reason, we understand. We would be like, what is wrong with you? You are a terrible person. You need to make it right. And especially someone who claims to be living their life in a godly way, doing that feels even more off color. There's this element of sympathy for Dimmesdale. I just do not feel sympathetic for him. And I think that Hester is trying to protect him, so I understand where that is coming from, but I also think that she is at fault as well, because she clearly still loves him and cares for him, so much so that he essentially broke her trust and left her to her own devices to raise this child and let her carry the weight of the sin that they both committed. And then when he says, never mind, I'm tired of living this way, let's run away together, she's like, yeah, let's do that. It's not the best. I just don't love it. I don't love it. The book is long. That is my critique of most classics, most books, most movies, like most things, to be honest. It's just too long. Make it shorter. There's so much that you could have cut out. One of my favorite classics is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and his whole point with that book was to show that you could write great characters and a very interesting plot, and you could do it in less. It's just fewer words. We just don't need all of this, and you could have cut out like a good couple chapters of the Scarlet Letter and it would have been the same effect. So my last and final thought is that I think that the book definitely has value in terms of characterization and symbolism. Like I said, I use it as an English teacher in my classroom, and it's great for teaching younger readers analysis and how to identify symbol, because it just gives it to you. It almost feels like the study guide for other books of, okay, here's a symbol, here's what it means, here's a character, here's what the character's goals, motivations, background, all that, just here it is. And so then later you can read another book and you'd be able to figure out for yourself. I think it is good for that. Although, man, I'm so tired of teaching this book. I feel like a hypocrite when I stand up there and I'm like, read this book, you know? There's some good stuff in there. I respect it, but I don't like it. That's my thoughts on that. Overall, would not recommend. If you don't have to read this, there's just so many other better things. Okay, so we're gonna do one of my favorite activities, which is let's read 1-star reviews on Goodreads for classics. When it's a classic that I like, I go and read those reviews because I get very heated and I use it as an opportunity to practice judging, which the characters in the Scarlet Letter I'm sure would appreciate. But when it's a classic or a book I don't like, I just love to go see what other people are saying so that I can affirm my own opinions. Let's see what we can find here. Okay, first review by Heather. She gave it 1 star and she says, the story, not bad. The style, unreadable. Here is who I would recommend this book to. People who like sentences with 4 or 5 thoughts and that are paragraph length so that they are nearly impossible to understand, because by the time the end of the sentence has been reached the beginning and whatever meaning it contained has been forgotten and the point is lost. Agreed, but also you just did in your sentence the thing that you were mad at Nathaniel Hawthorne for doing in his sentence. It feels a little hypocritical to me, but we'll take it. We'll agree. We'll agree with that one. John Taylor 1973's review. Oh, she's a long one. Okay. I found my old high school review of this book. Here's a little bit of my assessment. If there is a hell, Hawthorne is the devil's sidekick, and the first thing you're given after the stark realization that you're in hell on fire and this is going to last forever is this book. And you have to do a 10-page paper praising the wondrous virtues of this massive waste of time. And after you finish writing, in your own blood, mind you, your stupid paper, you are given another essay topic dealing with this same insipid book. Congratulations, this is what you'll be doing for eternity. Gabriel's review is, could have been an email. Lauren, 0.5 stars. This book is trash and is one of the worst books I've ever read, if not the worst. If this wasn't for class, I would have DNF'd it at the first chapter. There were so many aspects that made this book one of the worst books I have ever read. Once I finished reading it, I was so happy because it was finally over. The entire plot for me was a big miss. I didn't really like the storyline, which was a contributing factor to me hating this book. Another big reason that I wanted to throw this book down into the ocean and never see it again is because I hated all the characters. I did not like Hester, and I especially hated her child Pearl, who was so annoying. She's the most irritating child I've ever read about. How am I supposed to enjoy this book if I don't like the plot and absolutely hated the characters? Thank you, Lauren. Your opinion is noted. All right, so that is it for the Scarlet Letter summary, my thoughts, and then some thoughts from our good friends on Goodreads. So if you're thinking of reading the Scarlet Letter, maybe don't. If it's assigned for you in class, then, maybe do. But don't be afraid to be honest in any papers that you might have. It is okay to criticize classics. They are books just like all other books. They were written by people just like all other people. And just because they're immortalized as a classic doesn't mean that they don't deserve critiques, just like everything else. Well, thank you guys for joining me for this little journey, and be looking out for my next classics honest review.